Start with just a simple, what is effectively a self-massage exercise as a way of warming up and just beginning to settle in, really. So rubbing your hands together and getting your fingers a little bit warm, and then tapping gently over your face, forehead, cheeks, lips, keeping a nice light, steady rhythm. And then palms of your hands working up over your head and neck. In one hand or both hands around your lower part of your back, tapping quite light over that area. And then coming out to your hips, going around your hips. And your legs. So like everything we do in Tai Chi, this is an exercise that works on both body and mind. Right, on your belly. Just helping you to physically warm up a little bit. Also beginning to draw your attention into your body and onto the upper part of the chest. And shake out. So just trying to keep that gentle focus of attention in the front of your mind, standing with your feet directly below your hips, so not too close together or too wide apart, and bringing your attention now to the middle part of your body and beginning to turn there. So this is the area between sort of hips and pelvis and waist. Ideally, we want to stand with our weight a little bit forwards in our feet and just allowing our hips to drop back, so that area of the centre of your body feels a little bit like sort of dropping towards the ground. But particularly new people, but even people more experienced, we should always approach these postures very gently, especially first thing in the morning. We move towards these postures, not forcing them on our body. And for people who do have previous experience, remembering this is the rooting down, that what we're trying to do is to just let our centre of gravity drop. When that starts to happen, we feel more stable, we have less weight carried on the upper part of the body. And this contributes to a posture with more space for movement. And the development of this posture, the cultivation of this posture, really is an ongoing process. We need to make sure that we give our bodies time to condition. It's not always recognised that, like any physical activity, really, Tai Chi requires physical conditioning, and some of that conditioning is very particular, I think, to Tai Chi, particularly when we're thinking about things like the big muscles of our legs and thighs. They need to become stronger without getting stiff, so that our knees, hips, ankles, the joints of the legs aren't straining to carry our weight, that they can just begin to open up a little bit to allow the weight to flow downwards through the legs. So one important element of the centre and the awareness that we bring to the centre is this sense of dropping down towards the ground, rooting down. Another which is very clear with this exercise is that when we move in the centre of the body, we really affect the whole body. Very subtle in the legs, but we can see when you turn in your hips, when you turn in your waist, your rib cage, your shoulders follow the movement, and eventually your arms as well. So it becomes one of the primary focal points in our body, sometimes referred to as the dantian or sometimes the lower dantian. See if you can just let this movement settle into a nice steady rhythm, one that begins to resonate through your body, so that we begin to feel that the movement, both internally and externally, works through the whole of our body, not just one part of it or two parts. Turning your hands palm forwards. Your arms come up, elbows dropping down slightly. Don't have your hands higher than shoulder height, and don't overextend them. The further your arms and your hands extend from your shoulders, the more likely you are to stiffen up. And the feeling in the big muscles of your arms is that they're quite soft, quite loose at this point. And then your hands drop down. Or 1 foot forwards, keeping the width of your step. You can see the background between my legs. And this time, make a particular point of noticing the ground beneath your feet, a gentle push against the ground so that your weight begins to move forwards and backwards. Noticing how, again, the centre of your body responds to that, turning in response to the different angles between your feet. So we begin to get a sense of generating the movement, generating the energy from the ground. This is characteristic of all of Tai Chi. And once again, it's a body-mind process. We're beginning to build up a picture, the whole of our body as one unit, not as sort of just feet down there and some hands up there somewhere or something. I think this is one of the things that really does help us, makes a massive contribution towards our well-being. Your other foot forwards. And then shake. So as I said, the refinement of posture is an ongoing process in Tai Chi, partly so that our posture gets better and better, and there are obvious benefits from that, but also because it's one of the ways that we really use the body to help to draw our attention inwards and downwards. So we can think of these movements as being moving meditations as much as they're exercise, and the benefits and the outcomes that we get from this art span the whole the whole of ourselves, body and mind, as we tend to think of them separately. So don't force anything. Give yourself time to settle in. There's always something new to learn, it seems, in this. So this is not a case of getting your posture right and then thinking, oh, right, I've got that right, I can do something different now. It is part of the ongoing foundation of the art. So just push your shoulders up towards your ears and then slowly lower them down. Don't force this movement. This is not meant to be a strong movement. Come a bit closer so you can see. And I want you to just focus your attention on the downward movement and the feeling of the big muscles in the chest and upper back as they drop down. This is the feeling that we've described variously as releasing, letting go, softening, relaxing. They're all translations and understandings of the Chinese term sung. And it's good to have a kind of reference point for how that feels in our body. You may also notice that as your shoulders drop down, they eventually stop. It's like they've dropped into your rib cage. So we don't actually need the tightness that we often carry in that part of the body. Now, having done that, bringing your attention back to the center of your body, trying the same thing again. Pull your belly in, tighten gently across your back, and then release. And once again, just noting that feeling. Once we've got an idea of what it feels like, we have something to bring our intention to. If you look at my knees here, I'll pull my belly in, my knees just naturally stiffen up. But when I release in the belly and the lower back, they too release. In fact, you begin to feel that sense of releasing works all the way through the body. And this is important. We often see Tai Chi as being an art where the knees are bent heavily. And there are reasons why we would do that. But initially, at least, what we want to try and get a feeling for is less about knees bending than it is about the hips releasing. There will be a slight bend in your knees, and you will feel it in the muscles of your legs if you're doing this properly. And importantly, you get a sense of dropping. It's feeling that your pelvis, your center of gravity, dropping towards the floor. So this is the process of rooting down. It doesn't start with your knees bending, it starts with your hips releasing. But then, as that happens, you can allow your hips to drop back a little bit more. Only go down to a point where you still feel that you're not straining in your knees, and then just let your legs push you upwards, and then dropping down. Feeling how when you drop down, your shoulders just follow the movement, and then when you push up from the hips, pushes your shoulders up. So we feel that connection from the lower part of the body up into our upper body. At the same time, your feet are gently pushing down into the floor. So the connection is right from the ground to the top of your head. And notice that it's the releasing feeling that allows us to drop down, that loads the legs. It's like doing this on a trampoline or a bouncy castle. You need to drop down, and then you can begin to feel that movement, that energy pushing you up. Try to feel the movement within your body, and you may feel it that, for instance, your breathing begins to just naturally harmonize with this movement. But don't force that to happen. Breathing is a natural process that tends to follow a pattern of expansion and contraction. We look for an expansion through the whole of the body, belly, solar plexus and chest, that allows the lungs to expand. And if it's not quite working like that for you, actually interfering too much isn't that helpful. Focus on your posture and your movement and releasing tightness in your body instead. This time, bring the hands around as though you're cradling the ball. And as you push up, in that movement, push your elbows out. Turning your hands as though they're resting now on top of the ball, and your hips drop and shoulders drop. This is the exercise rooting down. Trying to maintain that sense of the ball shape Arms either underneath it or on top of it. And this gives a sense of function, of intention to the movements of our arms. And this is something that we want to try and maintain through every movement, that there's always a sense of intention, a deliberate intention there. Sometimes guided by the images that we use, sometimes guided in other ways. If there's an image that doesn't work for you, don't feel that you failed or don't feel that you have to go chasing after it. The images are there to help to focus our attention and intention into the movements. No one description, no one image is ever going to tell the full story of these arts. Notice that my hands are a little bit in front of the body. My elbows too. I don't want my elbows back here. That starts to tighten the chest. And this time, from the lower position, just turn your hands out so your fingers point out to the sides. And the next time you push up, elbows get pushed out, drawing your fingers up, and then pressing down. This is the exercise called the wild goose. So it may be that the image of the bird in flight offers some kind of quality of movement, of smoothness, of grace. But try not to let the image distract you. You're not trying to be a bird. Trying to bring some of those qualities into your movements, and still the physical effect of pushing up from the ground is the main driving energy for the movements. Wild goose. And using the same movement in our legs and our feet, letting your hands drop down, and this they cross in front of your belly. This time when you push up, your elbows again get pushed out. This time drawing your fingers around in a smooth circle and down. This is called parting the clouds. Once again, your hands staying in front of your body. That's particularly important as your arms go up, because we do often have this habit that we sort of pull our hands back. But that again would just tighten the chest. And it's important to feel that you just move as far as you're comfortable. This is not a stretch. Notice here at the top of the movement, I could have moved a little bit further. My elbows are still a little bit bent. And it's very characteristic of our posture as we go through these movements that we start to get a feeling that I would describe as spacious within the body. And that allows for movement, whether we're thinking about the mechanics of the movement, muscles and joints and so on, kind of metabolic movements, if you like to think like that, breathing, circulation, digestion. That slightly more subtle sense of movement and energy that flows through the whole of your body. We want all those movements to work in harmony. This time, curl your hands under, going back to the first movement and just doing these in a little sequence. Taking your time, settling down, rotating your hands out, pushing up into the wild goose. Notice if there's an urge to rush at any point. Letting your hands drop down, going into parting the clouds. Trying to pay attention to the sequence of the movements. And in particular, those moments of change where rather than rushing, there's what could almost be described as a pause. It works like the comma in a sentence, just helping to slow our thoughts down a little bit so that it's not only the body where we start to feel a sense of space, it's also as our thoughts begin to settle, our mind begins to clear a little bit. We're focusing on the movement, almost as though the mind itself also experiences this sense of flow, this sense of harmony. Thoughts will come and go. We try and just return all the time to this awareness of posture and movement, both internal and external. Noticing the small changes within the body, the patterns of expansion and contraction, and beginning to bring a very deliberate quality to those, a very intentional quality to those. This time, let your arms drop down, feel the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders. Push up and just focusing on one side of your body, pushing your arm up. At the top of the movement, just winding around and hips just sinking, drawing your elbow down until your arm is once again at full length. Your attention to the middle of your body and then to the opposite side as you push up. So we feel that rising, falling movement, which is how my hips are dropping back. It's that center part of the body once again, dropping towards the ground, and then push up your attention, your intention, going to the other side. This is Dragon Plucks the Stars from the Sky. So what we want to try and do is feel that the expansion, when it starts, as the center starts to get pushed up, works through the whole of that side of our body, from the sole of your foot to your fingertips. One image that may help you with this is that as you bring your attention to the sole of your foot, it's like you're standing on an elastic band, just pushing up, extending that elastic band out, and then letting it slowly contract. People more familiar with these movements don't overlook that moment of your attention settling through the center of your body. You will find that it begins to shrink in time, but not in importance. It remains a key part of the movement, keeping our minds focused, clear. And it means that we're able to bring more of an intention to the movements. You may notice areas as your arm extends that stiffen up, and bringing an intention to release. Remember that releasing feeling from the start of the class. We will try and release in those areas where we feel the tightness and the blockage. Begin to recognize the feeling and almost to imagine the feeling in, say, that stiff shoulder or that bit of tightness in the back or whatever. This is where we begin to really integrate mind, body and energy into the one movement. One more on each side. and just resting in that top position, feeling in hips, lower back, buttocks, but you're overhanging slightly, almost like you were standing at the, or rather sitting on the top of a fence. Just letting your weight drop. And what I made about maintaining the focus of your attention, this is crucial, but it's quite difficult, especially for those of you who are more familiar with these exercises. If you go through the same routine each time, you can find yourself doing them on automatic pilot. But you will start to lose some of the quality of the movement and some of the feel of the movement when that happens. So there's always an intention to come back, and where we come back to is we follow the movement back to the centre and to the ground. Bringing your hands, just lightly touching the side of your hips with the inside of your arms, so you make that physical connection to the centre, and then pushing your hands up, so you're trying to press the palms of your hands into a low ceiling and back down, keeping your hips sinking backwards and taking a moment to settle into the centre and then pushing out and back. Again, more experienced people don't just use the centre as a focal point for that settling in, that sense of stillness. See if you can also, at the end of the expanding movement, just notice your posture at that point. Ideally, we wouldn't lose that sense of space and stillness, but inevitably I think we always do. And this time, from that position, lightly touching your hips, turning in the centre of your body as you push out. This is the exercise, pushing in 4 directions. So the overall pattern, the overall rhythm of these movements always follows expanding and contracting, yang to yin to yang. So built into this system is this process of returning, of sort of touching base a little bit. If not at the top of the movement, then certainly when you bring your hands back and you lightly touch the side of your hips, feel that pull of gravity on your hips, that sense of the centre settling into the ground before you move out again. We find these moments actually are very short moments when we get used to them. They're really intentional moments. It's not particularly physical. There are physical changes, but it doesn't take that long. It's a split second. And it's an important split second. Sometimes our thoughts rush ahead of us and we can feel like we're running downhill, and this just enables us to put the brakes on. So it's a very important habit to develop, a very important and central part of the art. This time letting your hands drop down, again feeling the weight of your arm, expanding through one side. Let that push your arm out, drawing your fingers back gently so your arm swings up, and when it's in line with your nose, straight down, coming back once again to the centre of your body, dropping towards the ground, and then the expansion outwards once again. This is called circling palms. Again, we might notice other times when we feel that sense of connection and stillness, stopping the urge to rush, but certainly here, as your arm comes back down to the center. And this time, turning and your hand drop down, turning back to the and then change the other side. Again, in that moment of settling, we're once again able to be very aware of our posture. Aware that we might have sort of lost the posture a little bit, we might have lost the mood. So a chance to recover those. Good. Now this time, just letting your arms rest for a moment, but pushing your hips back a little bit. So when we do this, our pelvis tilts and our upper body just tilts forward. This is not a back bend. As much as possible, I'm trying to maintain a straight line from shoulder to hip. There may be a slight curve there, but I'm not bending down like this. And then to come back upright, we imagine somebody just pushing on our hips here and come upright. And actually, what's going to happen here is we actually just allow gravity to pull our hips down. So by doing this, we allow gravity to help to draw us into an upright position without strain. And so this is again an important aspect of what's happening in the center of our body and why it's important to be aware of that, because we get to be upright without straining so much. And we're going to use this in the next two exercises very gently. I'm going to try and do the exercises quite big so you can see what's going on, but only move as far as you're comfortable. So sink down a little bit, let your hips drop back, careful with your knees, push up, arms coming out, sinking down again, hips going back, but head, shoulders and hands swinging forwards, and then back up. This is rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Alongside the intention to do the exercise, remember also, you want to maintain space in the body, movement through our back and spine. So it isn't the case that the further you go, the better, because at some point you'll start to stiffen up. And the basic sort of rule of thumb would be that we go to about 80% of the full movement, whatever that is for you. Coming up nice and easy. This time, as you come up, turn your hands so they're palm down, turning and then pushing your hips back, and again your hands go forwards, swing across carefully, let your hips drop down, come back to the front. This is called polishing the table, a combination of a horizontal and a vertical movement in the center of your body, pulling your arms around in a nice smooth circle from the back. Again, exaggerated so you can see what I'm doing with my hips. Coming across, up and back. And then in the other direction, and back. Polishing the table, nice and easy and gently. It is not the case in Tai Chi and Qigong that we always value large movements over small movements. Remember, it's the small movements, small changes in the body that are the building blocks, the bricks and mortar of the big movements. And it's quite often the smaller movements that we can influence most through our intentions. So the small movements are perhaps even more important than the big movements. Small changes add up to big changes. One more time. And then just let your hands drop and shake out. And that last point really needs to be emphasized. Tai Chi differs perhaps from other forms of exercise where we're not always going for those bigger movements. We're trying to cultivate an awareness, an intentional awareness of what's going on within the body, and recognize the significance of these small changes and how when they work together harmoniously, we can then build the bigger movements. So, for instance, when we push our hips back and our head goes forwards, there's a slight feeling of extension through the back. It's not a stretch in the back. Imagine the spaces between the vertebrae where the cartilage pads sort of exist. And if each one of those spaces just extends by a very small amount, the cumulative effect is very great. So we begin to build these movements from the inside out. And particularly those of you who are familiar with the patterns, with the choreography, with the external movements, this is where you increasingly should be placing your attention and your intention. Now, from the parallel stance, turn one foot out and step straight forward with the other foot. Still, you can see the background between my legs, so you've kept the hip width of your step. Stepped about the same forwards. Notice that this front foot is in front of the back foot, but it's not a huge stride. And once again, transferring your weight, a little bit more attention to this process now. Weight transfer is a very fundamental aspect of our mobility. And it's good to pay attention to this, to recognize where maybe the tensions in the body, the blocks in the body actually exist, hips, knees, whatever, that actually stop this process that we call filling and emptying. We can get into the habit of, once again, just settling in. Remember that releasing feeling. So as your weight settles in one leg, you're not necessarily bending the knee more, but you are looking to release in hip and knee and ankle. And maybe beginning to feel that when you do that, this feeling of compression in the leg gets stronger. And so it then expands and it moves you. So the releasing feeling, as with the previous set of exercises in the parallel stance, is actually the thing that initiates the movement, that initiates the energy rising from the ground. So it's important from that point of view. Without that, we would lose a truly significant source of energy and movement within the body. Another reason for doing this is that, again, this encourages the mind just to settle for a moment, and there are enormous benefits to that as well. It can really help to reduce stress. It can help to really help us to cultivate these qualities of calmness and stillness, which are so valuable, but can feel very, very distant. And we can get into a mentality to think we haven't got time to do that, but we begin to realise that it doesn't. We don't necessarily always have to put a lot of time into this. So again, it's very simple exercise, benefit to both mind and body. Now, when you go into your back foot this time, raise your front toes and feel how you shift back a little bit further. When you go forwards, push the back knee in, and again, you shift a little bit further. You can have the front foot slightly turned out at this point. And gradually bring in your upper body more into line with your supporting leg. So rather than just going to here, you go to here. But being careful not to go to here. This will have you pulled over. A really significant part of what we're doing is learning to move without getting into a fight with the pull of gravity. And the alignment of your body is really important. If you're leaning forwards or backwards or sideways, gravity will tend to pull you over. You saw that I went like that, and as I tried to correct, I was kind of pulled that way. So we're looking for that alignment that enables us to settle down into the leg, and then just taking a step. And if it's the back foot you brought in, you push back, put the ball of the foot down, lower the heel, press the foot gently into the floor, and move back. If it's the front foot, it's the heel that goes down first, and then what we call planting the foot. And try this with your other foot forwards. First of all, transferring the weight, and a reminder for people with a bit more experience with this, when you go forwards at this point, you'll be getting about 60% of your weight in the front foot. When you go back, it'll be more like 70, but you're not quite getting to a point where your upper body and your head are above your foot yet. But now when we start to push the back knee in and the heel comes up, and we start to raise the toes, the front foot, then we gradually shift until we've got nearly all of our weight going down through this foot, and we've got that feeling of your upper body, your head in line with your supporting leg and foot. And that's when we can begin to take the step. Just be aware, if you're even slightly leaning in any direction, then you'll start to either wobble around because gravity is pulling you over, or you'll really tighten up. And then step through either forwards or backwards, keeping the width of the step so when I go forward, my back foot comes in, forwards and out. Planting the foot, moving your weight. And then going back. Good, and shake out. Now have your right foot forward, so mirror my movements. Arms hanging down by your sides. They're feeling quite heavy, and at this point, they're hanging directly down from your shoulders. What we want to do is to bring our arms and upper body back into the movement without losing what we've just discovered about the walking and our posture and so on and so forth. So we want to extend our range of awareness. So bringing your weight into your back foot, and as you go forwards, just leaving your hands behind, and then settling in and letting them swing through. This is called fisherman castanet. Just noticing that gentle curve downwards and upwards. There is just a natural movement of your body. I'm not trying to lift my arms. I'm beginning to see if you can notice as your arms swing through, where in your body, your back, your sides, your belly, your shoulders, where do you feel the movement? Where do you feel these patterns of expansion and contraction? If you wanted to move your arms more, and extending our range of movement isn't a bad thing, but rather than getting to here and kind of straining with your arms, just have the intention to expand more in those areas you feel the expansion in, encouraging the body to push your arms through. So the movement builds, the energy builds from the ground through the whole of your body and is expressed in your arms. Just see if you can recall the feeling of that basic posture, feeling of releasing in your body. And then next time you come forwards, as you feel your arms beginning to swing up, turn a little bit to your left, so that redirects the arms in the way that we've found before. Coming back, letting your hands drop in the center and turn. This is called Wind Blows the Willows. And once again, not struggling to lift your arms, but rather feeling where you want to push from. Certainly from the ground, but where in your upper body do you feel the expansion and contraction that's associated with this movement? And again, this is a really good example of how body and mind begin to work together to really produce and direct the energy that moves us. Wind blows the willows. Willow trees are an image we often find associated with these arts. Willow trees have very deep roots, and when they grow up, they grow with a very strong but supple wood. It's said that in a high wind, where trees might get blown over, the willow tree bends and then springs back, so it survives. And these images can offer us a quality, a feeling that helps to feed into our intention. Intention is an instruction to the body, and we're trying to make very conscious intentions with these movements. We might use it with an image like the willow tree, with an understanding of structure and posture that comes from paying attention, some kind of idea of patterns of movement and so on and so forth. Again, with experience, some kind of memory of how it could feel to do Wind Blows the Willows or whatever exercise. There are many things that can feed into our intention when we give space to it. But if our thoughts are crowded and our thoughts are rushing ahead, and we're already planning what we're doing this afternoon or thinking about what happened yesterday, there's no space for that to take place. So that quality of stillness is an essential component in the whole art. So let's try those movements with your left foot forwards, again hip width across your feet. First of all, fisherman cast net. This is a delightfully simple exercise that really means that without getting too complicated, we have the opportunity to really train our awareness, and in doing so train our nervous system to allow us to be much more aware and bring much more of an intentionality to our movements, both internal and external. So we could say that an awareness of our bodies really helps to cultivate this sense of stillness that is so lovely about the art, sense of calmness in the mind. And since we've always got our body with us, we have the potential to come back to that in various circumstances. And at the same time, the awareness that comes with that means that we're able to work much more creatively and effectively with our movements, with our structures. So this is not mind over matter, but rather these three elements of body, mind and movement, or body, mind and energy, if you prefer the term, to really support and work with each other. You can really feel how that works. A simple exercise like this is a really good way of building that. Now this time, as your arms swing through, turning into Wind Blows the Willows. Expanding, contracting as your weight begins to move and expand. This time, either on your front or your back foot, you raise your heel or your toes, depending which way you're going to move and where you have the space. You bring the foot in, step forwards or backwards and plant the foot, lower your hands down. This is called pigeon spreads its wings. Moving forwards or backwards, settling into the supporting leg, bringing the other foot in. Dragonfly skims the water. And you bring the foot in, and if you're comfortable with this, just bringing your foot up, noting the alignment of your upper body to your lower body as being the thing that allows us the stability to raise the leg, or even to take the step. You don't have to raise the leg. If you're leaning over, tilting, you will lose that stability. Changing direction. If you are bringing your leg up, don't stiffen up in your hip, your back, simply to raise the leg. You might just do it a little way here. That's fine. Again, it takes time for your body to condition muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, and so on, to develop the capacity to raise your leg without you having to stiffen up, without you having to strain. One more time, changing direction. Once again, going forwards and backwards, or backwards and forwards. Remember, your hips dropping back is the key to rooting down. So, as you begin to move your leg, aware of that pull of gravity on your hips, releasing, allowing your hips to drop. Change again. And bring your feet back. It's important to realise that these aspects, rooting down, the physical rooting down, the dropping of your centre, the physical alignment of your body, the quietness, the stillness of the mind, and the awareness that allows, the intentionality that allows, the flow of the movement, they're all intertwined. And the loss of one will inevitably affect the other aspects. It's very easy to lose. It's very easy to lose the quietness of the mind. I'm sure we will experience that frequently. It's very easy to lose the root. There's so much going on around us that our attention constantly gets drawn out. But remember, the rhythm of the movement, yang to yin, draws our attention back. And this is really illustrated in our closing exercise, coming back to the parallel stance. It's called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. You sink down again, push up, your arms coming out, and this time they come around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest. And then you draw in, already feeling your hips beginning to sink a little bit, allowing the movement to bring you back to this rooted position, this position of stillness and calmness. And from there, you push out again. Yin changes to yang, changes to yin. And we want that to be a harmonious quality. We can use this exercise to really help us to notice what it is that draws us back. You know, if you have a busy afternoon, what would be the most useful thing to take with you out of the class in terms of a technique, if you like to think of it like that, to just allow you to quieten, to calm a little. Just one or two things. It could be the pull of gravity on your hips, it could be a sensation elsewhere in the body, it could be the image of the mountain, the feel of the movement. It doesn't matter what it is, just something that is appropriate for you to recall. And stand. Thank you very much, everybody. We have one more Monday class next week before the end of the year, and then we'll be starting up again early in January. Thanks for coming along. As always, do feel free to contact me with any questions you might have. Bye for now.